Hello again and welcome to this week's Leadership in Action from the 80/20 CEO. I'm your host, Nick Bhatia. He says his success is directly proportional to his will to succeed. And I'd say by most counts, he's hitting upon an 80/20 axiom, squarely over its head. Surely there's more to his serial successes. As I investigate, you will hear some great insights from this conversation that you can insist upon in your own organization for similar successes. With over 220 centers and revenue well over the 100 million mark, here's Rich Morgan, the founder and president of American Laser Centers, ranked 7th fastest growing company in 2006 by Entrepreneur Hot 1.
Well, Rich, you are rich. You've been very successful. You're rich financially. You're rich in your ability to succeed. You're rich in launching multiple companies. How do you do that?
You know what? A lot of hard work is really what it comes down to, and really I think the most important piece of that puzzle is having the desire to want to be successful. Not only financially, obviously for me growing up was very important. I didn't grow up I didn't come from a wealthy family by any stretch. I grew up on Whidbey Island, so I had a very strong desire from a very early age to want to be very successful and to be able to change my family's tree. And I think that desire will drive you and push you through a lot of the hard times that you're going to face in building a business of any kind.
I agree. I mean, there is research that shows one of the single most important factor in being successful is the will to succeed. So, Rich, I understand that being the will to succeed is very important. And given that we come across many people, we've worked with so many different people. You work with 200 centers, and we've launched previously also in other businesses successfully, sold them, similar kinds of business. You've been in the grocery industry, and you've been very successful there as well. You must have come across a lot of people who have the ambition, the desire to succeed, but they don't. And the many factors that go into bringing about success, and I'm sure you've evaluated those as you hire people. What are some of the factors that point out to you, as besides the will to succeed, that people make a mistake where people are not able to succeed because of those factors? What are the handicaps?
I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Can you ask that again so I make sure I understand exactly what you're asking me? I think what you're saying is you're looking for what are the key factors that make somebody succeed, even though there are a lot of people that have desire to succeed?
Yes. And you've the reason I'm saying is you've hired a lot of people, you've worked with a lot of people.
Sure.
So you obviously understand that.
I think the thing is it comes down to perseverance and your ability to it's not going to be easy. You're going to go through more hard days than good days. There's going to be days when you're going to wonder if you're going to make payroll that week. And a lot of people just don't have the stomach to persevere, to fight through that. And I think that's the biggest thing that causes failure. In owning or operating a business, is the fact that not every day is going to be easy. Most days are going to be hard, and you've got to be able to push through and stay focused on what it is ultimately your goal is. And I'm a big believer in the fact that you really need to have something much larger than what it is you're actually doing every day that drives you. And that something much larger for me is a battle cry in my company right now to provide a tremendous opportunity for women. We have 1,800 employees, 1,750 of them are dynamic, motivated women. And I think that's a battle cry that we can rally behind. That's a bigger and greater cause than necessarily the busy work that we do every day. And I think if you can focus on that and then be willing to persevere through the hard times, anybody can find success. And it's nothing special that I've done other than just I would just never quit.
No, that is definitely true. We've led in a lot of research as well as I've come across people where almost all the success people say that it's got to be more than just making money. It's not about making money because money eventually follows. The important thing is to know what is it that you're doing, what change are you making, what is it that's driving you, and so I agree with that. Now, my question to you then is, besides these two factors, there's something like you just mentioned that are you going to make payroll? Now, you come across these problems and you solve these problems. Oftentimes, all the problems come to you all at the same time. And you say, this is too hard. I'm buckling under pressure here. Have you experienced that kind of situation?
Many times. Mostly about 12 o'clock at night while I'm trying to go to sleep, and just, all the problems of the world are on your back, are on your shoulders, and, those are the times where, again, you have to stick to your plan and execute it. And, you wake up the next morning and you recharge yourself, you remotivate yourself, and you're back after it. I think one of the other big rules that I've always had for myself is that anytime there have been really hard times in my company, these were the times where I needed to be the strongest in my company. These are the times where I really needed to be there in the office and be providing leadership. And for example, the accounting department knows that we may not make payroll tomorrow, but nobody else in the company knows that. And you being able to maintain a positive attitude and forge forward, find the solution, solve the problem, and move on to the next one. Understanding that it's like a prize fighter. The punches are going to keep coming, and you got to stay in the ring. You've got to maintain a positive attitude, and you've got to make sure that when you are having struggles or there are problems in the company, that you're not letting that filter down to the rest of your executive staff, and definitely not down to, in this situation, to our sales organization piece of our business. As far as they're concerned, hey, everything's going great, and we're whistling Dixie, and everybody's happy. And I think that's the key to being able to push through those things one at a time.
So when you come across 5, 6, or 10 things that are seemingly going wrong, and you say, all of them are coming at you at once, and you've got to pick and choose because you only got so many resources, especially the high-end resources. And everybody's looking at you for directions. And he's saying, I can't think straight today because of so many things in my face. What am I supposed to do? Do you say, I'll get back to you later, or what's your typical approach in those situations?
Generally for me, what I do is I take them as they come. So if there's 10 things coming at me today, I'll take on 10 things. And whether I'm able to resolve all of them, generally or not. But when somebody's coming to you with something, my general response is, if I've got the time, I'll take a couple minutes, sit down, give them a little piece of direction to go and work on. And then what I do is I focus on the things that are the biggest priority for me. And in my company, it's always been sales first. So let's focus on sales. And as if we want to solve making payroll, the best way to do that is generate more sales. So by prioritizing based on what's most important to your organization, and then working down the list of this is most important to the organization and as a whole, I work on those things first, and then down the list, comes the rest of it, the other 8 things that are coming at me that day. But it doesn't mean that I don't address all those things at the same time. You can sit down with somebody for 2 to 3 minutes and give them some direction and some guidance, and then say, listen, I got a lot of other things that are going on today. I'm going to need you to take this and run with it. Take a swing at it and bring it back to me tomorrow morning or later this afternoon. We'll talk about it again.
So you mentioned something about focus, and the second word that I heard from you is prioritization. Focus and prioritization obviously go hand in hand. And having launched from one center to 220 centers that you now have, and I think you're now the 7th fastest growing company in the U.S. According to Inc. 500.
Yes.
So in 2008. So taking all these things into account, obviously you've looked at many things at the same time. So this concept of prioritization, how do you prioritize? How do you I know you mentioned about sales, but how do you prioritize and sub-prioritize when there are so many competing factors and you're trying to build a company faster than everybody else, which you obviously have done? So what's the mechanism? Most people get lost there. That's where I've come across people, including CEOs, who are not as successful, who are successful, but not growing as fast as they should. And they're looking at 5 different things and getting confused. How do you manage to keep your focus? How do you find the time to prioritize, and how do you manage to keep your focus?
I think I would say two things to that. First of all, understanding that I can't do everything. And so what you've got to do, and my management style has always been about, letting people take the ball and run with it. And if they make a mistake, then you're there to kind of help them through that mistake. And what that allows me to do is it buys me a lot more free time to focus on the 2 or 3 top priority things that I know are going to grow my business. Meanwhile, there's maybe 100 other things that we're working on. But rather than me being intricately involved right in the middle or sitting on top of those projects, I'm pretty good at delegating that and then getting the heck out of the way and letting that person go out and either succeed or fail at it. One way or the other, the person's going to grow from the experience and they're going to be better the next time around. And so what I've had the great fortune of doing is always believing that I need to surround myself with people that are better than me or stronger than me, and then let them be better and stronger. Literally to the point when we were opening stores at a very rapid pace, I would only come to corporate about 2.5 days a week. The rest of the time I was on the road out helping opening stores or working with the sales staff out in the field, but allowing the people that were running things here at corporate, that were doing all the structural pieces, giving them the space to do that, I think, is very, very important. And I think one of the big mistakes, and one of the things that will really get you eaten up inside, is when you're involved in every project and you're intimately involved in every project, you're sitting on every project. Things. A, your people aren't getting any better or any stronger, and B, it'll just tear you up. And so early on, I learned that lesson that, you know what, I have people that I've hired that are around me. I need to trust those people and give them the opportunity to either be great at it or to fail at it. Either way, it's learning. It's a learning opportunity for them, and they're going to get better and stronger. And that's how we were able to continue to grow the company at the pace that we grew it at.
So obviously surrounding yourself with the right kind of people is fundamental to your success. Now, surrounding yourself with people and resources requires money. So obviously you have come across several situations where, resources are limited and you need to make a decision on where do you put your money? How do you allocate your budget? Do you not worry about your making profits at that given point in time and put the money back into the business? What is your philosophy around the idea of investing back in the business?
I'm going to tell you right now, the first year that I ran the business, I didn't take a penny out of the business. I didn't even start taking a paycheck until probably the 11th month that we operated the business. So I've always been a big believer in reinvesting in the company and continue to do that. Throughout the history of American Laser Centers, we've continued to reinvest in the infrastructure. And one of the things that I saw as a real potential stumbling block for us was if we're going to go and open this many centers in this shorter period of time, we've got to have the infrastructure built in place. And the challenge in doing that is that it's costly to do that. So I had to come up with some creative ways to find funding to allow us to do that without having to be involved necessarily with angel investors that had control of my company. I was able to maintain control of my company, but build the infrastructure first ahead of building the sales side of the business. Because what happens if you build the sales side, then you're constantly playing catch up on the infrastructure side. And so for us, we built a very extensive database, call center systems, all these things we put in place literally the first year that we were in business. And during that time, I didn't make a penny. I lived off of my credit cards and didn't live a very large lifestyle at that time. But the thing is when you make that investment, it turns around, and once it turns around, then the paybacks are great.
So do you plan all this ahead of time, or are you dealing with it as it comes?
I really wish people ask me, they say, Rich, did you have this all planned out? How did you know this was going to happen? Honestly, you know what? I knew what I wanted to accomplish. I knew that I wanted to be the 800-pound gorilla in this industry. I saw an opportunity, and from there forward, it was a playbook, and we were running as fast as we could. So maybe I can't really take credit for having a well planned out strategy, but I did know where I wanted to end up. And you figure out how to get there along the way.
All right. So oftentimes people come into these situations. So I didn't exactly plan it. I knew the opportunity. That happens with many entrepreneurs, and some of them fall off the cliff because the runway was shorter than they anticipated, right? And so you're going full speed, full steam, and there is the end of the runway. So how did you manage to make sure that your runway is not coming to an end while you were going full speed?
Well, I think the key there is having the financial backing to be able to do it. And so you've got to have enough vision to be, a year out, 2 years out in terms of where the company's going to go. You've got to have some benchmarks or plan of this is the sales, this is the dollars that are going to drop to the bottom line, how much additional funding am I going to need to be able to pull this off? And then you've got that's a critical element, and I think that's where a lot of people fail as they build a business, is that they don't have measuring posts along the way. And by having a measuring post and saying, if I don't have this much cash at this particular point in time, then I'm in trouble and I need to make some immediate changes. Because you'll reach those points where it's like, okay, I don't have enough cash to keep carrying this forward. What do I do? What's my fallback plan? And without those measuring posts, what ends up happening is you run, and then it's too late. And you're off the cliff, and the company's upside down, and there's no saving it. So what worked for me was being very specific about how I would measure the success of the business as we move forward, how we would measure and plan cash flow and cash needs, and then I was very careful to always have plenty of extra capital or the access to extra capital, in reserves. In terms of additional, I used independent investors as we built the company out, and I had them lined up around the block, ready to invest prior to me needing them to invest. So that rather than being in a situation where I'm out chasing money, I've got the money right there if I should need it.
So what I hear you consistently saying is that whatever the infrastructural needs are, you prepare for them well in advance. You know what's needed, and you're ahead of that curve before the money starts rolling in. Because obviously, once the sales starts picking up, playing the catch-up game with infrastructure is very, very hard.
That's right.
So that's true. Now, getting back to a completely different issue on your company, it's a highly competitive environment. If I understand, or if I know this environment correctly.
Yes.
And you have launched this company before, and you're trying to launched a similar company before, successfully sold it, and you're doing it again, the same business.
Yes.
Why is that, sir?
Well, what happened is I sold the company just about a year and a half ago, and obviously the economy. I mean, we're living in a world that I don't think anybody ever thought we would be in, or really even understands exactly where we're at. So from that perspective, the buyers of the company were not able to maintain the success level that I was having, and made some pretty major management decisions that affected the success of the company. So as the company was going into failure a year after I sold it, they asked me to come back, and of course I would do that. This is my baby. So now I have a chance to make more money the second time than I did the first time. So not only do I get to do something that I absolutely love, I get a chance to profit off it again. So it's a win-win-win for me, is the way I look at it. And what we were able to do is we were able to go through a massive restructuring and get our debt in line, make sure that we have plenty of cash in the bank, which I just talked about how important that is. But we accomplished those two things early in January, and then we literally doubled our sales from January to March, month over month. We were over 2 times our sales in March what we were in December of 2008 to March of 2009, and we're continuing with that trend. It's a tough economy. There's a lot more headwind out there today than there was when I sold the company. But you know what? It comes down to the basics of the business. It comes down to having passion for your business and making sure that your staff understands how much you care about them and how important they are to your success. And rebuilding those fundamentals in the business is really, I think, what's bringing the business back around.
And so how did you move from grocery business into something so vastly different, medical centers?
Yes, it is vastly different. Well, there were a few stops along the way after the grocery business. I was in the grocery business at about 26. I was managing grocery stores from the time I was 20 years old. And if you know very much about that business, it's a very, very tight margin, high volume, very tight margin, very numbers-oriented, very detail-oriented business. And my thing is this. I couldn't afford to go to college when I got out of high school, and I was making good money, what I thought was good money at the time. And it dawned on me that, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to go out and do something amazing with my life, and just made a decision to do that. I left the grocery industry. I actually got into multi-level marketing and was very successful there for years. Started a couple other businesses along the way. Some worked better than others, but over a course of time, it all started to come together. And then when I found this business, it was just the same way I found anything else. I was looking for an opportunity. I saw this 10 years ago, and I said, wow, this is a tremendous. a wave of the future. And so that's how I ended up in the business. And then as far as the business itself, I think the fundamentals of business are the same, whether you're running a grocery store or whether you're running a laser hair center. The fundamentals of how to do business are the same. And then what you've got to do is you've just got to apply your personality to the business, your passion to the business, I think is most important. And those would be my two secrets to success. I don't think they're big secrets. So.
Oh, no, I don't know if everybody would agree, because they would say, well, we've tried hard and haven't reached that success level, and this person here says it's easy and has been incredibly successful. So my role here is to try to get at what is it that makes you successful.
So. Back up, I wouldn't say it's easy. It's definitely not easy. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And for me, it was 150 nights a year in a hotel room, 130,000 domestic flight miles every year. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into success. But again, it goes back to the basics of really having a real passion and a desire to succeed, and then adding to that the perseverance of just not accepting failure and quitting. And you got to take a few bumps along the way to figure it out.
Now, would you like to tell a little bit about the business itself, the business of laser cosmetics, and what's the future for this business, and how well do you foresee your company?
Well, I can tell you, I'm more passionate about the business today than I've ever been, and the industry today than I've ever been. Some of the business that we started in was laser hair removal, and that's really all we did the first 2 years that we were in business. Now that we've established a national footprint, what we're focusing on is adding more and more services to our menu. We're just now getting into the injectables market, and we're launching that nationally. We're getting into some more ablative services, but where the industry is headed going forward is very exciting. They're finding ways now to melt fat without doing any surgery. They can melt fat with lasers and with light. We've got a great product called VeloShape, where we're doing body contouring, and the results are absolutely amazing. So the future going forward, I'm very close with the manufacturers. I spend a lot of time talking with their CEOs. I have a good understanding of what's coming over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, and it fits just perfectly into our business model. And our business model, very simply, is that we're the largest provider of aesthetic services in the world, and we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to expand our array of offerings, and it's a business that it's easy to fall in love with, because you're in the business of making people feel better about themselves. And there's no better feeling than being able to have somebody who spends some money with you and walks out the door feeling better about themselves, about the way they look, their confidence, especially in trying times like this. I think it's an easy business to be in love with.
Well, I can understand. I have a friend who's an orthopedic surgeon and another friend who's an oncologist, and the personalities are very different. The orthopedic surgeon, no matter what he does, people are thankful and happy, and the oncologist usually is in the opposite side.
That can go either way, yes.
Yeah. So, great. So in this business then, currently, do you see any threat from overseas markets?
No, I don't. I don't see any threat from overseas markets. We do have some competitors overseas. We've looked at expanding. I think at some point in our business model, it will make sense for us to expand, at least into Canada, and Mexico, South America. Actually overseas, it's an exciting opportunity, because the restrictions are much less overseas than they are here in the U.S. So while we've looked as a company at expanding overseas, we haven't taken advantage of it at this time, but I think we will in the future. As far as competition from overseas coming into the U.S., most of the large players that I've met with or talked to, there's a lot of hurdles here in the U.S. that you have to be able to get over the top of, in terms of how you operate your business. The restrictions vary state to state. It's not the same rules in every state, and so I think that creates a barrier of entry for people from out of the country, looking at building their business here in the U.S.
So in that case, what is your secret to revenue generation? In other words, what are the key factors? You said, measuring posts and so on and so forth. So what are the key factors that you are constantly monitoring and saying, this is what will make my revenues go up?
Well, the key to our business is that once we have a customer, that customer is generally with us for a very long period of time. At least 3 years. So we've got customers that have been with us from day one, and they continue to buy from you. So finding the customer is the first thing that we're constantly measuring and constantly watching. There's a variety of ways that we do that, obviously, whether we're buying leads off the internet, how we advertise on the internet. We attend a lot of outbound marketing events that drives a lot of lead generation. So you've got the top of the funnel, which is driving lead generation or creating leads, lead generation. And then we've got a call center that processes through those leads and does all the scheduling out to the field. And then comes the critical side of the business, which is what do you do with those leads once they come into a clinic? And that's forever an ongoing process of training and retraining, hiring and rehiring, constantly motivating, working very specifically, being able to see numbers in real time. I can look at information that tells me exactly where a clinic is in sales in real time. So I'm able to coach that clinic manager in real time and really develop their skills as a salesperson to make that initial sale. And then beyond that, about 35% of our business is in upsell, in selling customers that are already our customers, but now they're buying additional services, maybe another body part, or maybe they started with hair removal and now they want to get rid of some cellulite or work on some contouring or want to do skin tightening. So, the key is to get them to, the key is, A, generate leads and generate good leads, people that really do have an interest. And then B, once you get them into the clinic, to be good at being able to sell that person, get them excited about getting started, understanding that the value of that customer isn't what they pay today, but it's that relationship over the next 3 to 5 to 7 years.
Wonderful. I wish you good luck, and I hope you grow as fast as you've been growing so far. I'm sure the public, as it is aging with the baby boomers, this is definitely a growing market. And wish you all the luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much.